Chapter 10 is a relatively large chapter compared to most of the others in this book. It covers energy metabolism and blood health, so we'll cover this review in more than one video. Now, because the first part of the chapter goes over energy metabolism, I have added extra information into your notes that your book doesn't spend a lot of time on, which is on energy metabolism itself. Now, the energy used for all cellular work is ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. You're constantly using it and you constantly have to replenish it, and you need food energy for that. The process of that is called cellular respiration. In your notes, I provided you the cellular respiration equation from the standpoint of the oxidation of glucose. So to completely break glucose down into energy, you have to use oxygen. It's a three-step process. The glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide, some metabolic water is produced, and enough energy harvested to make 32 of these ATPs is produced from this glucose. So you're doing this on a constant basis, and the steps of cellular respiration are glycolysis, the Krebs or citric acid cycle, and the third step is oxidative phosphorylation. Now, go over the notes very well. I've given you only the highlights of what happens in each step. So pay attention to how many ATPs are made, where in the cell it happens, whether it's in the mitochondria or not in the mitochondria. Also pay attention to which parts are aerobic. Now, coenzymes are mentioned. Coenzymes are biological molecules in part used to help enzymes work, but in the case of energy metabolism, these coenzymes are mostly derived from the B-complex vitamins. Now, the first portion of your book in the chapter does jump right into coenzymes, but it doesn't really give you the background information of what the coenzymes are used for. So be sure to go over the notes because it contains information that is not in the book. Now, the nutrients of energy metabolism. Here is a listing of the B vitamins in general. Most of them are used for coenzymes of energy metabolism. B vitamin deficiencies generally result in some form of anemia, but there's different kinds. And usually the deficiencies could be multiple. Sometimes they could be single, but they're associated with poor diet or alcohol abuse or something like that. Now, thiamine, this is the one that it's used in energy metabolism. The deficiency is beriberi. Riboflavin is the one that's found mostly in milk and can break down in strong sunlight. Ariboflavinosis is a deficiency of riboflavin. Niacin is the one that can be converted from the amino acid tryptophan. Okay? B6 is the one that actually can be stored in the body. It's kind of the exception to the rule in terms of water-soluble vitamins being storable in the body. So this is involved in energy metabolism mainly on the level of the muscle cells. In your notes there is a section on B6 toxicity and the effects of the nervous system. Folate is abundant in vegetables, also known as folic acid. It helps with cell division. Deficiencies in folate include macrocytic anemia, risk of neural tube defects, and so forth. B12 is found mostly in animal foods, or almost entirely in animal-based foods. It works with folate in its role in cell division. B12 is also helpful in the nervous system. If a person is deficient in B12 because of loss of intrinsic factor, that causes pernicious anemia. So to absorb B12, it requires that intrinsic factor produced by the stomach. Now, the tricky part about these two is that a deficiency in one can be covered up by the other. So if folate is given when it's B12 that the person's deficient in, the anemia is covered up, but neurological damage can continue to progress, underscoring the need for detailed tests, never to self-diagnose a nutrient deficiency. Pantothenic acid and biotin, they're widespread in foods. They're for energy metabolism. Deficiencies are uncommon, although a biotin deficiency can be induced by eating too many raw egg whites because there's a protein in raw egg whites that prevents its absorption. Now, other nutrients involved. Choline is a component of acetylcholine. I mentioned a few other things there. It's a rather short section. Iodine is helped by the thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones to regulate metabolic rate or basal metabolic rate. Iodine is also abundant in seafood in most places that are, most crops that are grown in coastal regions. Chromium is a coenzyme that's involved in carbohydrate metabolism. Manganese is a trace mineral, not to be confused with magnesium. Sulfur is used in energy metabolism, and it's also a component of protein. So sulfur is going to be found or abundant in foods that are high in protein. And this concludes our brief review of part 1 of this chapter.